Okay, here we start. This is the 2.11 graded assignment. It is a composition assignment, much like the first one we did last week. So we're just going to go through it here, and we're just going to start by filling out all the information right here on the information sheet, and we're going to switch it to landscape. We're not picking the piano this time. We're just picking a blank staff. So I'm going to cross out the first set of instructions first, and we're going to move over to blank staff, add, boom, next. All right, cross that off. This week's assignment is different. This C 4/4 time signature is still correct, but our key signature has changed, right? Or sorry, 6/8. It's changed to 6/8, which is 6 beats per measure, and the eighth note gets the beat. And we're switching from C major to G major this time, which has 1 sharp. So you just have to click up 1 time, and you'll see that sharp symbol appear, and we'll be good to go. Then we click good. And we resize. I'm going to move my tools around a little bit. Remember, my setup might look a little bit different because I'm on a different computer. So let's check off our instructions here real quick. Boom, good to go. Zoom in so we can get a little bit better view of this. All right, change my tools around. Here we go. And now let's get ready to get started here. Let me get my Word document a little bit more visible. All right. So now we're actually getting ready to start composing. So this is very much like the first assignment that we did for Finale. You just follow the instructions just fine. You're going to use all the same tools. You're going to get the note simple entry tool picked, and we're talking about our measures too. Today we talked about what measures are, and there are those blank spaces where we write the music in between the bar lines. So each of those bar lines are going to have 6 eighth notes, or any amount of notes that add up to it. So here we go. Remember, we can hover over each of these tools to see what the names are. And we need to put our first note right here on the staff. The first note we call for is a G on the second line. It's nice. We just count up from the bottom to the second line. And we're going to put a second G right next to it as an eighth note, and finally a third G right next to that. We'll switch to a quarter note. We can hover over it to find it. There's the quarter note when you go to the second space. There it is, the second line. And now we need to switch back to an eighth note. And we're going to put our note right there on the second space, which is an A. So now we're going to listen to it real fast. All right, you should have been able to recognize what that is sounding like. So now that measure is full, right? We have 6 eighth notes in there. We have 3 eighth notes, which is 3. A quarter note is 2 eighth notes put together. And then we have our 6th eighth note right there. So we can't put any more notes inside of that measure. So we have to go to measure 2, which is that second blank space between the 2 bar lines. All right. So we have to put this dotted note in there, which is really easy. We just have to find the note that we need. So in this case, it's a dotted quarter note. We pick the quarter note, and to put the dot on it, we literally just click the dot symbol, and it looks like a dot, and it can't be any more difficult than that. So now this measure, measure 2, is full because we have 6 beats in there. A dotted quarter note is 3 beats, and then we, because it's 1 beat plus half of its value, that's what the dot does. And then we have the quarter note, which is 2 beats, and this eighth note, which is 1 or a half a beat, or 1 beat in this. So there's 6 eighth notes here. So let's listen to what we have so far. All right, we're getting there slowly but surely. Let me back up there a little bit. Good. So now we're on to measure 3. So let's cross off measure 2 so it's really easy to keep track of where we are. And we'll get measure 1 in there as well. We just put a line through it so I know I don't have to go back there. And we're good to go. So measure 3. We're going to just pick that quarter note tool again and put on the second space. So I'm going to start with the first space and we can just count up. I put the note in the wrong spot, so you just hit the up arrow 2 times on your keyboard and it will move you up to the right spot. So there we go, A. We start from there, we go down 1 spot to the G, which is the second line. Really easy to figure out where we're at. If you know where the note is previously, the note that comes before, it's really easy to figure out the next note. You just have to remember that alphabet. And it puts us back up to an A. And we just end with that B. So we have a little pattern, which we can see at the end of measure 3. It tells us there we should have a pattern of A, G, A, B. And we can check our work, A, G, A, B. So we're going to stop and we're going to listen to what we have written so far. But first we're going to cross out, we're going to listen here. All right, we're really close to the end of this first phrase. So we're at measure 4. If you're keeping track of all the measures we've filled in so far, 1, 2, 3. Now we're at measure 4. All right, so it says we need a dotted half note. So remember, we go to our half note, and then we just hover over till we see the word dot. You click dot, you get yourself a dotted half note. A dotted half note is 6 eighth notes, which means that measure is going to be full now. There we go. So we'll just strike that out, and we'll go ahead and we'll start to listen here, because we can have an idea of what this main melody is going to be like. I think you'll have most of it recognized. Most of you will have recognized. It's a pretty common kids song here. So let's give it a listen. All right. So now I'm going to work on finishing this up pretty fast here, and then we'll come back together at the end and see what it looks like completed, and then we'll listen to it. Okay, now we're done, so we're going to hear what it all sounds like all put together. All right, it's a pretty familiar tune, and I think it needs to sound a little bit faster. The tempo needs to increase, so we're just going to move it up to 180, and we'll see how much better it sounds at that tempo. All right, there you have it. Familiar song number 2, so save it. If you could submit it as a PDF or do a screen capture of it, that would help grading. But good luck, and let me know if you have any questions.